This episode of United 96 is brought to you in part by Mundy Development. Whether you're beginning your first real estate purchase or you're a seasoned investor, Mundy Development can assist you with all aspects of the process. Kick off your next investment by visiting mundydev.com. You are now listening to United 96 Podcast on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to United 96 here on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network. Ted here, John here.
Deadline Day special.
Deadline Day special, and we got some Deadline Day moves we will definitely get into. We may or may not have a special guest come onto the show. If you've been following our Twitter, we've been maybe teasing it or tweeting about it, but will remains to be seen. TBD on that one.
Yep.
You might just see him appear into the.
It would be very funny. So as we've talked about before, producer Brian, I believe, may be on the way to the hospital to have his second child. But as a result, we're sort of running a lean version of our live show, as you can sort of tell by the surroundings here. But yeah, there's no way to guest. There's no producing going on. It's just, things will just happen if they happen. So we'll see.
It's it's an ad hoc version, and we're still learning the kinks of how to do this. If you guys appeared on our Twitch, which I think some people did, at least a couple people, we even got a chat response. I had an interview with River City 93, and hit the record button and thought, oh, we're good. And then suddenly looked and I got a notification from us that you're going live on Twitch. And I'm like, I absolutely did not see that. So we went live for a little bit. So if you check that out, we also have that podcast out as well. Definitely check it out if you're interested in learning more about the Richmond Kickers.
Do that.
Great podcast. Great time with those guys. So John, go ahead.
I'm good. I think, if you're going to learn about where Ted's true loyalties lie, it makes sense to listen to this other podcast. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. This is there's no promotion relegation.
Let's get into it, Ted. Let's get into it, Ted.
Okay, guys. All right. So I admitted this was a very conflicting moment for me. I have, as you know, I've been a DC United fan since I was a kid. Been going to games since I was a kid. They will remain my boyhood club. I had moved to Richmond in 2012 and immediately needed people I knew. I had, I think, 2 acquaintances from high school that I hung out with a little bit. But honestly, the group of people who actually started out going to DC games in Richmond and started out being DC United fans. They would travel up to Richmond. You probably know some of them. Doug Doby, who we talked about. By the way, go check out the link. I think we posted on the Twitter. Donate to him. Doug Doby. A lot of people who I became friends with. And the Kickers have stepped up as far as a club in embracing the fan culture and allowing these fans to be rowdy. And I've grown to really enjoy my time here with the team and enjoy my time in Richmond. So I made the decision. I will be sitting with my friends who will all be supporting the Richmond Kickers. So I'm going to join them in that. John will make fun of me. John will probably harass me.
I will be there. I'm going to be there and sitting with the rightful fan group for this
you gotta
show.
Come, you got to come up and join. You got to come up and join the game. There's going to be nobody there.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think I'll be doing that at all. I'll wave at you guys from a distance. Yes. Yeah, listen, it's okay. I understand, Ted. You got to love the one you're with. But I when DC United wins by a large margin, I'm going to be relentless. I'm just going to be relentless. Just prepare on the Friday show, on the Monday show, and then I'll let it go. But yes, at least. But listen, if the unthinkable happens and the Kickers win, I expect the same thing. Although I think our listeners may not enjoy that quite as much.
I will be it'll be a weird feeling if the Kickers. I think if DC goes out and does win, it will be kind of like, well, that's what I expected to happen type of thing. Mm-hmm. But I think if the Kickers do win, it will be, oh my gosh, this is like the biggest upset this team has had since 2004, 2005, when I think they made an Open Cup run. I can't remember exactly how long it's been. And, mixed with the, oh my God, this is like the worst loss for DC United ever. Not ever, probably in a long time.
It'll be up there.
It'll certainly be up there as far as losses to lower divisions. Just like when the Kickers lost to Christos FC, that was not a fun game. So
I just want to, before we get started on the show, and like I said, we've got some deadline news. We'll discuss that. We've got a lot of news tonight, to be honest with you, and varying levels of good or bad. I want to thank our newest Patreon, Cavalier Max. I said I would thank everyone who joins as they joined. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, thank you, Dad.
Is that who it is?
My dad. Yeah, that is absolutely
hilarious. That's excellent. The funny thing is we share that. So thanks, Ted's dad. I appreciate that as well. So thank you for our Patreons who listen to the Friday show. The Friday show became a Saturday show because Friday I just completely spaced on it, and I just did it Saturday morning. So we're getting better here. We're gonna get better. It's gonna have a real name eventually soon. But let's tarry no further. Do you want to start with the legal update or the player acquisition update? I think we should go the good news first versus the bad news.
I was saying we get the bad. I'm always a guy. Let's
get the bad news
out of the way.
Let's do it. So I find myself awake this morning at 5:30, getting on the phone as one does when they want to make sure that they can't go back to sleep. And I hopped onto Reddit and saw that a certain DC United player threw a blind item because the Swedish press, like most European press, does not publish names until there is a legal confirmed reason to do so. A certain DC United player potentially was arrested for assault in Sweden this last week, and I said, "Oh, that doesn't sound good." But this is the internet, and I don't read Swedish, so I'm not going to say anything that could be the case. And then I went on Swedish Twitter for a while at 5:30 in the morning. Which, that's a good place to hang out, as good as any other.
Real investigative journalism right here, by the way, folks.
Listen, we were doing hashtag journalism. That's what the Patreons pay for, is me going Google Translate on Swedish tweets. Did I find the person that supposedly was the target of the fight? Or the maybe? Who knows if that's true or not? But we did find a legal document, and I said, oh, this looks real. And then Steve Goff reported it was real. And then there was a message from the team to Mohanad Jeahze, a name I have said 7,000 different times in different ways. I may not have to say it much longer because he is currently in a jail in Sweden for assault, for 2 different instances of assault, including one in December and then one most recently. We have no details on anything about the assault other than the prosecutors are holding him in jail for, I think until it said May 8th, mm-hmm. I think the report said, which is a while. If you remember, A$AP Rocky got in a fight in Sweden and ended up in jail for quite some time. So they do not play around with this sort of thing. So what can we say about this? It's another mishap. So it's probably not one I don't, unless there was a long history of this that we don't know about. I don't know how much you can blame the player acquisition choices for this. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I think there will be people out there that do blame it. I view it. There were people out there that blamed DC in the front office for acquiring Taxi, and I'm like, how can you predict that? Do you want them to predict the future in that regard? Do you want them, how do you plan against this? The biggest thing, I think that the fact, if this had just happened in April, I think there would be, maybe a little more foreboding. But again, this also happened, last December when the team was actively acquiring him. So, there is I think maybe a little bit of a question of, what did they know? Did they not know anything? How did this, maybe get passed? I think from a certain standpoint, again, I'm holding back a little bit because we don't know the situation. I'm not suggesting there was racism at any point involved in this, but Sweden has been dealing with it, and Mo is a Iraqi, a parent, at least a child of Iraqi immigrants, and that's becoming a big sort of flashpoint in Sweden. So I'm kind of waiting for the full details here on what happened, what exactly happened. We don't know. We know maybe it was a fight over a woman of some sorts. We don't know the full story here. I think we'll certainly get some more details as they come out. Obviously, he is, he's in a jail cell. They suspended him immediately pending the investigation. If he's convicted, he's probably done. I think that does it. I think that pretty much invalidates his work visa. I'm not sure. I'm not privy to how all that works, but I think, committing a crime in your home country and then trying to come back can tend to bring you in problems with your work visa. What this does for DC and their contract, who knows whether they can get out of the contract because of this or whether they have to buy him out or do something. I don't know at this point. There's a lot of information we just don't know about.
This is the due process podcast, so we're waiting for those things to happen. The problem is, I don't think it moves quickly in Sweden.
No.
Aside from the fact that there's a preliminary hearing on May 8th, the team is going to have to make other plans. Is what I think. That
maybe they made those plans too. We'll talk. We'll get into a little bit. I was not expecting this, but from a team perspective, how. I don't see this. I see this as bad. I don't see this as good. It's not good to lose a player, but we talk about in the context of this game, Santos looked better than Mohanad Jeahze has looked all year in that game against Orlando. He's looked rather solid, to be honest. So I don't know if I think it's bad, but I think the level of badness, maybe like if you had told me this at the beginning of the year, I'd be like, oh, that's our like supposed star left back. I'd be a little bit more upset now. I think the team can weather this based on the depth that I'm seeing. Maybe I'm being a little bit naive and a little bit foolish, but I think they can sort of weather this until maybe the summer they have more clarity, and then they can maybe make an adjustment. Hopefully maybe they get the cap space back and they can go out and make an adjustment. Your thoughts, John? I don't know if you're feeling the same way or if I'm completely off base here and this should be 5-alarm fire territory.
I don't think so. I think the fact that this team is where it is had so far nothing to do with him. Mo was a player that, according to Sean Howe, multiple teams in MLS were after. He is the highest paid left back in the league. So choices were made to bring him here. He had not clicked so far. He had been injured twice. I think that he has, Jacob Green had looked better than him on the field this year. I don't think that you can expect that over the long term based on the player's sort of experience and past. But as far as players you can afford to lose based on their form, this is fine. And like you said, there's some other players that can fill in there. I think, if we're talking about Kazuo Samake coming back from Loudon, that's probably not what you want necessarily. He's doing very well down there, by the way. He's doing better there than he has in the past. So maybe he can make me eat my words as well. But this comes at a bad time. I would have wished that it did not come on transfer deadline day.
I mean, honestly, the correct answer is we wish it didn't come at all. We wish this did not happen at all.
If I had to pick between never and it happening, I would choose never. And then if I had to pick between deadline day and any other day, I would choose any other day.
Exactly.
So we're here where we are. But I'm trying to think if there's any other. We don't know enough. We just know that he is in jail. We know that the team has suspended him. We don't know anything else. So everyone else sort of just, hold your horses. We'll find out. I'm sure all of this will come out in the wash. To Ted's point, we don't know what the circumstances are. I know that a tweet that I found with that document was a bit of a racist tweet from someone that lived in Sweden. So just, it's anything is possible until we know more. So all we know is DC United is down a man. They keep that salary stays on the books, hits the salary cap no matter what for the year, I'm sure. And that so now we have two players, one whom is in the jail, the other one who is just hanging out on Instagram, Robert Morrison, who is making his full salary, not playing and taking up a roster spot. So not great. Not really what you want to have seen.
I have to think that they are. I will be surprised if we do not hear something about a buyout at some point with him. Now I don't know,
or just bring him back at this point. I'm just so mad at the fact that he takes up a really good portion of DC United's salary base, and he's inert.
And maybe they, we'll get into it maybe a little bit when we talk a little bit about this transfer window. But maybe they looked at this and said, well, maybe they tried to look at some moves they can make, try to bring in, they were talking about 2 or 3 players. They don't have the international slots. I think he doesn't occupy one right now, but he certainly occupies the cap space. Maybe
fourth highest, at least last year, 4th highest salary on the team.
Yeah. So, maybe they looked at it and they said, well, he doesn't really occupy occupy roster space. And if we have a move we want to make, then that's when we exercise the buyout. I don't know if this is the last time they can do that or whether they can do it at the next window, but I have to think that's something. Maybe this is the last. I have to look at the rules for that as to whether they have to do it at this one. I know it was extended through the end of the transfer window. It used to be at the beginning of the season, if you didn't have a player you wanted, you had to exercise that buyout. So we'll see what happens. They can only do it once, and now this whole Jeahze situation may be kind of throwing a wrench in some of those plans. So we'll see how it goes. All right, I think we've gotten through the negative. Let's do the positive. Let's do the positive, which is the DC United 3-1 victory over Orlando. John, that was probably the first complete performance we've seen from this team in 2023. I feel very, very confident in saying that. It comes against Orlando. You know, we talked about we talked about places last week that were places where DC United has not looked well. And I guess like the 2021 game against Orlando kind of just stuck in my head. And I completely forgot that we have actually done very, very well against Orlando, regardless of whether it's home or away. We are there. Mm-hmm. We are their proverbial boogeyman. Every time that we play them, we always just bring pain to them. And we brought it on the road today. And I forgot too, like one of our like only road wins of 2022 came against them in like a 5-2 victory. So I mean, we forget that it appears that like DC plays Orlando, there's something in the juices, or Wayne Rooney's on the field that they just get up for this game and want to go play. So, where do we want to start? Do you want to start with the goals? Do we want to start with any performances? How do you want to begin this?
I think the goals. I think the fact that sort of that's we find ourselves off of a scoring drought, scoring 3 on the road, and then also winning multiple games back to back on
3 on the road, and we have our first game where we have won by more than. I mean, we only have 2 other wins, but first game where we've won by multiple goals. So I think that's certainly was something. Let's start with the first goal. Really sort of off the back, I think we sort of more saw that sort of 3-5-2 today. And I remember I'm gonna pat myself on the back because I said I watched that Montreal game and I said, you know, this is showing to me more promise as like a potential. If they can figure out this attack, they can figure out what works. This is looking a little bit more promising. And I think we saw it sort of come to fruition in this game. DC looked very positive on the ball, sort of moving forward. They were soaking up the pressure. Orlando never really had too many opportunities. And then they I think it was a clearance. Benteke drops back all the way into the last third of the field, wins the ball, and then plays it off to I think he plays it off to either Canals or somebody, and then they find Ruan, who then Ruan tears up the field, followed by Taxi Funtas, plays the ball to Taxi. The Orlando defense is all out of sorts, and probably makes that one of the nicest finishes I think I've seen from Taxi this year.
This year, I would say no. I was like, he's got some pretty great ones in the locker.
This one's up there though. The way he kind of curls that around sort of the near post. He doesn't try to hit it long. I think it almost catches Gillespie. I think Gillespie sort of is showing that all of that goal to basically be like, hey, you know, go for where there's more of the goal, and that's where he maybe makes a save. And Taxi kind of looks up and says, I'm actually going to take this and bend this around you and sneak it into that near post. So by the way, Gillespie doesn't like playing DC United. I don't know if you saw my little stat. He signed in 2020. DC didn't, and I'll read the stat. Signed in 2020. DC did not play Orlando in 2020, but he has given up, I think, 86 goals. 12 of those have come against DC. 13, like almost 14% of all his goals given up in his time in Orlando from 2021 onward have been against DC United. So not fun. Gillespie, we make Gillespie look very, very mortal when he comes and plays us. But nice goal. Anything else you want to add to that, or you can also jump right into maybe the bad moment. I'm sorry, I gave you the bad moment. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just gonna say it's funny how Ruan is sort of finding a niche on this team that doesn't involve defending. Mm-hmm. He's got 2 assists on the year. I just checked. FootMob has him at like a 7 point something as a season average. Taxi great finish, as to what you said, is sort of, and also very sort of a great jump into this game. Striking first blood on the road is sort of what you always want to do. It changes the game. and makes the home team get a little bit more nervous. I think a little bit more aggressive in their efforts to retake the lead. But yeah, why don't you give us the bad?
I'll give you the bad. So the bad I think from this game, and probably the only player that I don't think had the strongest performance was Lewis O'Brien, and he wins, I think, the unfortunate title of sort of being responsible for the goal. Some people were kind of blaming we're blaming Miller on that. I don't think so. I mean, Miller plays that ball. No. He's in space. O'Brien has plenty of time. Maybe someone doesn't quite yell man on or play the ball now, and he kind of gets caught. Great tackle. I'm not sure the Orlando player played it. I was like, oh, that's a foul. Like, has to be. And then I look at the video, I'm like, nope, he got absolutely all of the ball and just absolutely mugged Lewis O'Brien there. They go down. I forget the goal score. I know it's like their draft pick who scores the goal. So an unfortunate sort of like unforced error type of goal, which, is not something, we talked about this team locking things down defensively. This is now, since they've made this sort of defensive switch, this is now the second goal from the run of play they've given up. So not a good moment, I think, for this team to go down. Not an opportune not an opportune moment, especially when you just grab the lead and then to give it sort of right back and get the Orlando crowd back into it. So yeah. Anything else you want to add about that goal? Anything else I'm missing? I don't think we blame Tyler Miller at all, right? No,
I think they said that's the third goal for the 2022 draft selection, first player in that draft class to score 3 goals. It's about all we need to know about this guy. I think that's the last time we'll have to talk about any Orlando player doing something really super positive in this game.
Exactly, because then DC really kind of stepped on the game. I think it was kind of back and forth for a little bit. There were certainly some opportunities for both sides. I would say Orlando kind of had a little bit more of the pace of the game. I think I was kind of thinking like, all right, let's just get to halftime 1-1. Let's regroup. We can come out in the second half and really take it to them. And they weathered the storm. Tyler Miller, again, I think had another really strong game in goal. A couple really, really key saves to kind of keep this game level. And he's really becoming, and also really one thing I noticed from him, he's really, I get less nervous. I get less nervous about him when he goes out and tries to make a play on the ball or tries to make a clearance or something like that. I think was it this game or the last game where he like literally receives the ball and kind of almost dummies the attacker. I can't remember if that was against Montreal or if that was against
who, Miller?
Miller, yeah. I think that might have been against Montreal. It might be confusing thing.
Our wins. You're getting all of our wins on the road mixed up.
Yeah, no, it's hard to keep up sometimes.
Struggle.
But let's talk. I want to talk about Donovan Pines, who I do remember in this game got the ball and literally broke the ankle of 2 Orlando defenders. That was a moment where I was kind of like, oh, he's never done that before. And so I don't know if he did that on purpose. I'm like, he absolutely did that on purpose. And it was a nice play. And then he probably like. I think one of my favorite, I'm going to go ahead and say probably one of my, like, not necessarily the best goal that DC has scored all year so far, but like one of my favorite goals this year because of just kind of the hilarity of it. I think everybody on Orlando was thinking corner kick. Let's make sure Benteke is marked. And they forget
there's clearly nobody that's taller and better at headers on this team. Couldn't be. It would be almost physically impossible.
Yeah, and then they forget about huge and tall Donovan Pines, and the one Orlando player realizes it before everybody else, tries to step in front of him, but he's about 5 or 6 inches shorter. Tries to almost do like a basketball like charge. And try to like draw a foul, I think, on Donovan Pines. And Donovan Pines, to his credit, just kind of like, basically bumps him off, doesn't really do much to foul him, and then is basically left wide open. Header comes in, he buries it into the back of the net. It's 2-1. But I think really, I mean, he gets the game-winning goal. In my mind, I mean, you can make an argument for several players being man of the match. In my mind, he was my man of the match in this game, just from a defensive standpoint.
He's on the team of the week.
He is on that.
So clearly, you're not alone on that.
Yeah, game winning goals matter. So
Ceylon 14 says regarding Donovan's goal, it very much felt like when Neo begins to believe that he is the one. You could see it was something rehearsed from training, but his celebration made it feel like even he thought it might not be possible. Yeah, I said it. I said on I don't know where I said it. I said that he looked like it has a very strong I don't know what to do with my hands vibe, that he just was so excited to score. We have to eat a little crow, right? We talked over and over again this season about, Donovan Pines is clearly at the bottom of the pecking order, and he was. It took injury to make it happen, but he has seized the job with both hands. He is, to your point, you tweeted, I don't see him losing this spot. I don't either.
Yeah.
Brendan Hines-Ike has been out and injured and out and injured. Derek Williams is making a lot of money, but he's also been injured twice so far this season. So I think you probably just keep rolling with it. The results have been pretty good. Now, we've all seen the Donovan Pines experience.
Yes.
There are often times short runs of extreme competence where you think, oh yeah, that's why this guy gets called up to the national team, and that's why this guy's this and this and this. So beware. Just be aware is all I'm saying.
It's hard to sometimes remember that he actually had his last best run was 2021, right into that Gold Cup, and he actually got a call onto the roster. Again, it was an MLS heavy roster, so grain of salt, but he very much sort of pushed himself into the lineup. I think DCU Strikers says Pine was the player most broken by Losada, and he went to the bottom of the pecking order due to his.
There's a couple of people there that could be on that list of most broken by Losada. It's a pretty long list.
Very certainly, but
Yamil Assad's on
it. That time in 2021, I mean, and also when DC also played a three back line, he actually looked really good, and I think a 3-back line might actually be what kind of helps and sort of serves Pines a little bit better, and might actually maybe mask some of the mistakes when he has to be sort of in a 2-man back line. There's a lot more responsibility that's involved. Which
is funny because one of his worst mistakes he ever made was in a 3-man like back line.
Fair.
And he had said, I'd never played it before when it happened, and they had given him no. So I mean, he's had enough time now in the system.
Yeah.
Like obviously now, I think at this point his tactical ability is a lot better. But regardless, it's a question asked in here in the Open Cup: does Pines or Birnbaum get the start? I think the challenge continues to be there is not a lot of depth in center back. I think Hayden Sargis might get a start.
I think he will definitely get a start.
Matai Akamboni could probably get a start.
Is he with the U17s?
He's back.
He's back. Okay.
He was in Orlando on the bench, so he's available.
Yep. Yeah, so
it's possible.
I think
one of those players could start, but they might want to keep him healthy.
Yeah, I think you could see one. I mean, we all know Birnbaum's history with early games in the Open Cup, and
watch it, Wayne,
and what happened. So, I mean, I think there'll be some communication there. I think you could see Pines and Sarr just start. Maybe you see Pines and Akamboni. I mean, Wayne's had no trouble going to Akamboni, so I think you could see him start there. We'll maybe get into a little bit of who we maybe expect in the lineup for the Open Cup, maybe coming up in a later segment. But let's get to probably I would say, like, from a technical aspect, probably the best goal of the night.
Oh boy.
I can't even remember. I might have been looking down on my phone. I can't remember how it happens. All I remember is the ball kind of be pinging up in the air. I think there were a couple of headers. I think it was off a set play, if I remember correctly. And the ball just kind of falls, and you just kind of watch this situation in kind of slow motion where Benteke has the ball. He's surrounded by like 3 Orlando defenders. They all just kind of like either back off or he bodies them off. And then he does this just unbelievable, I mean, best way I can describe it is a world-class turn, fires it into the back of the net, 3-1. And at that point you're thinking, this team, barring something crazy happening, this team has sewn up 3 points, and they almost gave up. There was almost maybe a second goal they kind of could have given up there. Some excellent saves from Miller, but I think that's the Benteke we've been promised and hope to see.
That's even more than that. I think that was a little Yogo Bonito situation that I don't think the close control off the first touch was great. He almost pushed the ball too far. It looked like he was going to push it away too far from himself, and he's still able to get his foot around the ball. I think that was. I don't think he's going to score a nicer goal while he's here. I feel like the ceiling has been set now. I think it's this, and that's fine. That's great. I love that it was the embellishment, the gold star at the end of this game, or at the end of this sort of Orlando beatdown. And again, it is just so funny. Fast forwarding to the end, there's no fan base on Twitter that's more annoying than the Orlando one.
Oh,
it's wild. They haven't been around that long.
I
If you or your company would like to advertise on United 96, please email producer Brian at rfkrefugees.com. I can promise you only the most electric live reads you've ever heard. And for a small nominal fee, I promise I won't make any references to Zoltan Stieber in the copy. Back to the show.
I absolutely revel. I revel in the fact that when we beat them, I absolutely love going out and beating Orlando. They still do. I'm going to talk about this. You remember the early 2010s, like, the 2011, 2012, when everybody was doing the YSA chant, and that was a whole big deal. Orlando just kind of sort of sat in and said, we're going to bring this back. We think it hasn't gotten its due. And every other MLS fan base is like, no. Like, we've been there. Don't do it. It's not. And actually, there are a lot of people that like have to listen a little bit to kind of understand it. And they think it sounds like the homophobic chant that everybody talks about. I got reamed pretty hard when I said, hey, is that the chant?
I remember that.
Yeah. And then I was like, and then they're like, oh, it's the YSA chant. I'm like, oh, we all
cool.
That was all agreed upon that was a stupid chant and we shouldn't even really be doing it. It's crazy. It's not like that was a huge, like, I remember that being a huge, huge deal amongst fan circles. There were campaigns to try to stop it. Front offices went out and they were like, hey, stop doing this chant. Hey, we'll help you out with something. Just please, we can't have this chant anymore. TV networks are complaining. Things have changed because no one seems to bat an eye at this chant anymore. So, but otherwise, I think it's stupid. Orlando fans, please stop it. It's a dumb chant, and we should just stop it. It's not interesting. It's not creative. It's not fun.
Listen, if Orlando wants to look and sound like someone that's living in the year 2012, in the year 2023, that's their option. They can certainly do that. They can be the object of scorn and ridicule, as most things in Orlando are. So I think it's fine. Be dumb. That's fine.
Is Orlando DC United? Yeah. Is it a rivalry in the East?
No, it's not, because we own them. So it's not really a rivalry until it's all the way back.
They've had some games against us. We had there've been a lot of moments. And I feel like this team, like among the teams that we have played, we have shared more moments. Like we talk about the Rooney goal.
The moments are us scoring goals on.
Well, Daryl DK also, and I think someone brought up in the chat asking what game in 2021. It was the road game in 2021 with Daryl DK scoring in the last minute to beat DC on the road. I was at that game. It was not a fun result. But in all honesty, like I think if this team gets a 3-game playoff series with Orlando, we could see some sparks flying between teams. And I think this is a potential naturally developing rivalry sort of on the realms. We also own New York, and people still called that a rivalry. Like we owned them for years. Like even when we were bad, we would always go out and beat them. So it's kind of similar right now in a ways, and even now, so I think we're definitely their boogeyman. But I think it's I would say just stay tuned to this. I think we need a couple more moments, maybe a couple more incidents, and maybe we have actual like naturally developing rivalry, not something forced upon by MLS. They really want to make DC and Philly, and it's like, no, it's never close.
Yeah, we've got a big stretch to narrow for that to happen. Andy Nahar comes back, plays 30 minutes. That's great. That's getting closer and closer. I think the question was asked in the midweek if he was going to start, and Wayne was like, no, basically.
Does he?
Pedro Santos.
Do you think he starts in the Open Cup?
No, I wouldn't do that. I would think I'd give him another 45 minutes here.
Yeah.
Maybe he could start and go 45. That's possible. But yeah, Pedro Santos is, for now, our new left back.
Yeah.
Going forward, or that's going to be, provided he stays healthy, that's where he's going to be. And the other thing I wanted to say, and Yamil Assad has looked useful these last 2 games. I'm very happy to see it, particularly that.
We're going to need him now because he plays the left side, and we need left wingers. So, but I wanted to mention Pedro Santos, sort of. I think the other player who didn't show up on the score sheet, who was excellent in this game, and I think because of this game, this is why I'm looking at the Jeahze news, and I'm like, Santos has been pretty good. if we end up losing Jeahze and we have to go find somebody else in the summer, I think we can manage till the summer on Pedro Santos, despite the fact he's 34. I think we've got some depth.
A young buck, a young man at 34. He's a spring chicken.
Yeah, but he played really well in this game, and I think the 3-5-2 definitely suits a wing back in a lot of ways, and I think I think we'll see something good out of him. So I was very impressed with his performance in this game.
Let's talk about the player who's going to potentially compete with you, Milsad, for minutes on the left wing.
Yeah, Christian Jeahze, I'm assuming is how you pronounce it.
Who knows? He's not even on. The contract's not even signed. We don't have to learn it yet.
By the way, speaking of this trade, so he is from the Vancouver Whitecaps. Julian Gressel just tweeted, those flashbacks just hit hard when I saw the trade between Vancouver and DC.
Shut up, Gressel. Get over it. You're in a better place. Vancouver is beautiful.
You got to play in the Champions League, buddy. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, be quiet.
Yeah, Christian Jeahze, for allocation money, will remain to be seen what that allocation money is. He played at Atletico Nacional. He's a winger / wingback, right side or left side. I've seen him kind of play all the way around, so he does have a little bit of a utility function. 17 goals, 12 appearances. Assists.
12 assists and
103 for Vancouver. I'm assuming that's where you pulled that from. Yep. So, I mean, that's not a bad strike rate for a winger, and he certainly seems like he's gotten his minutes reduced, so I think he's definitely due for maybe a reset or a refresh.
Yeah. He was playing left back mostly for Vancouver, so that will hurt your offensive performance. Of additional note, his salary is about $750,000, so about one Ravel Morrison, and he's under contract until the end of next year. And I think I wanted to point out that Martin Rodriguez's contract expires at the end of this year, coming off of an ACL. And if you follow him on Instagram, I think he misses home a lot. Like all he posts are like videos of when he played in Chile. So I think he may be looking back home after this year. Tough to get another contract after an ACL with the same team. Ask Felipe, ask any number of players that have to go somewhere else to prove it. So yeah, we'll see. I am pleased with this. Sitting pat was the only thing they couldn't do. And Wayne said in the press conference that there have been multiple players that they were in on. They were told were available. They approached them on, and then they're like, "Oh, nope, never mind."
Yeah, so
can't do it.
I think there was some maybe some pushing with the again. We talk about the salary cap. We talk about the cap against and the salary cap for the team, the international slots, who they could go out and get. This definitely feels like maybe this was a fallback. I also don't put it past them to be like, maybe they were already sort of looking at this and saying like, and then maybe they pulled the trigger on trading for Vancouver once Jeahze, maybe that was kind of like a last minute, like, okay, we thought about this guy in the summer. Maybe we want to see how Mo, it's not working out for Mo. By the way, very interesting. I want to bring this up as an interesting comparison. So is FB ref. Thank you. I forget how to pronounce that. Stats. He is compared to Christian Roldan, which
I saw that seventh most.
Yeah, seventh most. Which if you know, is a player that a lot of now again, a lot of it has to do with his contract. He's not on a whole lot of contract. He has the I don't know what's the philosophy. I can think of like a player, like a big time player in a salary cap league who like clearly takes less money because they want to keep the team as competitive as possible. I think Tom Brady did that for a little bit. Like he clearly like took less money because it was more important to him to have a better team around him. Big thing about Christian Roldan. So not necessarily the same with Jeahze, but compared to him, and he's a player. Christian Roldan is a player that a lot of like every single MLS executive talks about how much they want him and how much they like. He is the player like that most of them want to build around. As a versus attacking attacking wings and midfielders, he's okay with, I guess, sort of the passing. His goals and maybe his expected assists aren't that great. His defensive skills are pretty good, which makes me think like in a 3-5-2, he could be a very effective wingback. I don't know what Vancouver played when he played left back, but if he's playing sort of further down the pecking order, playing a wingback in a 3-5-2 is very different from playing a wingback in a 4-4-2 because you're basically have that entire left side, to your discretion. You can push up, you can push back. So yeah.
Speaking of wingbacks in a 3-5-2 for DC United, Brad Smith made his first appearance for Houston Dynamo this past weekend. So congrats to Brad for. Speaking of another player who had an ACL and had to go find another team to prove it, he's back on the field, so good for him. So we'll see how this shakes out, and I wonder too how quickly he gets integrated, how quickly he's thrown in the fire. I bet you that if Santos has another good game, they'll be able to mix him in versus Lewis O'Brien getting here and they're like, you start, you play every game, you play 90 minutes.
We only got you till July, buddy. By the way, I'll laugh very hard if Lewis O'Brien be like, wow, they're gonna milk Lewis O'Brien for every single game they can if he plays against Richmond. It's like we only.
Oh, yes, that would be hilarious. Good point. I bet you I want that now. I really want that a lot. Yeah.
I'll be curious to see the mix of the lineup. That's gonna be a fun Wednesday to try to.
Let's talk about that now. I think that's a good last place to hit.
Anything else we want to hit on the game, or do you think we've pretty much covered it?
We did it. We 2 games on the bounce. Mm-hmm. We've got the game on Wednesday, which we're about to talk about here,
and then we got Saturday against Charlotte FC. So
Charlotte, the Polish connection over in Charlotte. I forget the guy's name. The winger that's giving all the assists to Sudorsky.
Yeah, well,
it's going to be interesting.
They just made a trade too. They just traded one of their strikers to RSL. I forget. I think it was one of their big time strikers.
Shinyaseki?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay.
They've traded Andre Shinyaseki from Charlotte FC in exchange for winger Justin Miram. There's got to be some allocation money thrown into that. It seems like a very, very lopsided. Maybe it'll be like the trade that it'll be like Andrew Shinyashiki to RSL for $1 million in allocation money. We should also mention too that DC is apparently also interested in acquiring a striker from the USL Championship. So
Dane Kelly or Deshaun Brown, the remix. If you've been a DC United fan for a while, the USL Championship striker as a midseason backup is it's a well-worn path and never, but honestly, the body is needed. Christian Benteke is it as a pure 9. So this is just, there are certain Loud United podcasts that are on our network that are very, very afraid about DC United potentially poaching a Loud United player, Zach Ryan, who scored 6 goals already this season, or 5 goals, 6 goals this season as a replacement.
I think they're going to be looking. I was trying to maybe look through the USL Championship like stats to find a Christian Benteke very, very light version of Christian Benteke.
Jonathan Benteke.
Yeah, that would be funny, wouldn't it?
Bring him back.
Have his brother back up. Oh man. But I mean, I think that seems to be maybe the avenue they're kind of looking for is that type of player to back up Christian Benteke, because they don't have that right now. They got Miguel Berry's gone and Nigel Roberta is currently injured. So we'll remain to be seen about that. Maybe we'll have something drop before we sign off today about that. But let's get to the Open Cup game. First, let's talk about the biggest story I think that's been covering all these Open Cup games is will the games be streamed and will we actually be able to watch them? As has been mentioned, I don't know if we talked about on the show, ESPN deal is no more. Turner owns all of the rights to the U.S., including the Open Cup. Obviously, the financial strain that's been on the federation, they've rolled back a lot of their coverage now. They produced, if you're talking about, if you looked at those games last year, those games were all produced by U.S. Soccer. And then ESPN told them where to send the feed to, basically. And then they sent the feed there. And it popped up on the stream. So they've rolled back a lot of that production. They only announced 8 games that they will announce at the weekend. DC United, Richmond Kickers was not on the list. They were sort of going down the list. Other teams have sort of been announcing. Right now, as of midday Monday, DC was the only MLS team hosting that had not announced a stream. Colorado announced the stream. I can't even. Colorado was the big one for me. I was like, if they're streaming this, we should stream this. It's freaking Colorado.
They're gonna hold out until you can no longer buy tickets from DCUnited.com, and then they'll be like, we have decided to stream the match. You can now, if you're not going to make it to the stadium, you can watch it on TV. That's my secret. That's my conspiracy thought about what's going to happen. I'll be there, so I don't really care. But
to me, that's just
me and 600 of my closest friends.
I do not agree that it would sell you such an amount of like an extra ticket that it would just be worth it just to tell people, hey, we're streaming the game. I just don't think that you're already giving it away. It's a free game for season ticket holders. So season ticket holders, know whether they're going or not. I don't know, man. I don't agree with you that it's an effective way to actually sell. Maybe somebody in the room thinks that, but this just seems like not enough people care. Yeah, some weirdos on Twitter and this podcast guy who emails me asking me might care.
Yeah, that's why it's not doing it. They're just doing it to spite you.
Probably. Maybe
DCU Striker 9 has it. The Goff says by the way, it's Dahome. 350K game.
Take it every time.
Great
trade. Great trade.
Spend that fake money.
Great trade. Great trade in my opinion. But I mean, I think going back to the conversation, I mean, I think this is something you do for your fans. This is like a bare minimum expectation. What also I don't understand is and this is what I was getting at, and you kind of pointed out, like, oh, they can't just plug in a laptop. I get that, but like
you tweeted it.
I tweeted it, but yes, I did tweet it. But I was mainly saying like the bigger overarching point here is like they're going to have cameras there filming the game because they have to do replays, show the video board in the stands. Like maybe they just don't show it, but I can't imagine like why you would do that. So they're going to be like showing that anyway. Why wouldn't you just like figure out a way to get it up on a YouTube live stream? Like, is that really like such a financial burden that you couldn't?
What if they don't have replays?
We'll see if I get to the game. If there are cameras shooting that game, I'm going to be much, much more upset. The game is available for radio. You can listen to it on radio, so you're not completely shut out. It's better than nothing. But it's
the year is 1920. Everyone is huddled around a radio.
You're the Sunderland fan and Sunderland Till I Die who's listening on the radio. I don't know if you saw that show, but there was like literally a guy who was making tea and like listening on the radio, and it was just like, wow.
Soccer is not a radio sport.
It's not.
Soccer and hockey, the worst radio sports. Football and baseball, very good radio sports. The speed of I pity Dave. Dave is calling it for radio, but I like to watch him on the TV, and it feels sort of the same.
Yeah,
it does not feel. But I have remembered listening to bad radio broadcasts of DC United games in the past, and it was just very. I don't know how to explain it. The theater of the mind was not functional. Was not good.
Well, part of the reason I kind of like the description, like you listen to. I always got upset. Because when I would listen to I think it was like the Champions League games when they were on Fox and they had them on Sirius XM, and I'd be kind of driving around or something like that trying to listen to them, and it's like they take the TV broadcast, which the person assumes you can see, so they might like do some. Basically, they're doing player identification. They're like just making sure that So that's what they say, like Benteke to Taxi to this to that. Whereas a radio person is actually going to try to describe it. Benteke plays it across the field to the right, to the left wing for Taxi. Taxi plays it back to the center circle for Click. Like you're going to get more description out of that. So I think the fact that it is at least made for radio might make it a little better. You can maybe visualize it a little bit, but still, not an ideal situation. It's better than nothing. I think the only answer I have is if you can make it to the game and you can come. It's going to be a fun time. You basically can probably sit anywhere in the stadium. There's not going to be a lot of people there. You can pick your seat. No one's going to care. And come join me up in the Richmond supporters. I guarantee you, we do not bite.
Don't do that.
Most of the people there are DC fans, by the way, John. You should come up and say hi. They're going to sequester me. So I need you to come up and say hi to me.
I will yell at you from the bottom of the section saying, release my man. And if not, then have some stickers. I'll bring some I'll just throw stickers at them. Yeah.
Fun times. All right. Say it was a DC radio play-by-play is an art. There aren't many and there aren't many artists. I tell you, Dave Johnson is that one. I've listened. I think I was coming late and I pulled up the game because I was going to be late being able to watch it. And I listened to it on the radio, and Dave gives a pretty good description of it. So
I'm realizing now, or I kind of realized at the start, but now since we're ending, I'm realizing that the wide shot in this now has my vacuum and all of the trash and detritus that is usually hidden. So I'm going to have to straighten up before next week's show. I don't like this.
You don't like,
you guys are in my basement.
Oh yeah.
It's usually much narrower.
It's fine. That's why I just go in front of a wall and I hang up stuff on the wall, so you can't see how bad it looks.
I could, if I did that here, you would see a picture of a signed autograph of Luciano Acosta, Bill Hamid, and a Rooney jersey. I could do that. I could spin it around.
Spin it around. Do it. Get something behind you. Get like a green screen. I don't know. Do something. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it. You got anything else you wanted to drop or any other news?
I don't. We're going to have a, for sure, verified. Well, I don't even want to verify it. Never mind. We might have more interviews this week. We might not. If not, you're just stuck with the two of us talking our stuff. Thank you for joining the show, even if maybe you thought you were going to listen to somebody else tonight.
Yeah,
we appreciate you sticking around.
Joining the show. Come see me. I promise we'll be nice to you. Come see me in the Richmond section. We're nice people. We're all mostly all of us are all DC fans too. So
once DC United gets up 2 or 3-0, we all go. Everybody go up and see Ted. once that happens.
Fair enough. All right, folks. I think. Here, by the way, also. Sorry, we're reading this live from Stephen Golf. Whitecaps will receive another $200K in 2025 if Dahome, I think is what they said. Now it is Dahome hits certain performance thresholds. So could be fun.
This is going to be like the Miguel Berry situation all over again.
Yeah,
but that's fine.
That's fine. We'll take it. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos. Thanks again to our show sponsor, Mundy Development, available to help you with all of your real estate needs. To get started on your next real estate investment, visit mundydev.com. That's MUNDYDEV.com.